Greetings. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Iranian Column, and this is a special report on the Israeli-American attack on Iran. Okay, let's unwrap this. First off, people have been up most of the night following the goings-on, seeing airstrikes, hearing about things being hit in Iran. Israel launched a surprise attack, a sneak attack, on the Islamic Republic of Iran with the official objective, and I point out official, which is what they're saying, of hitting their nuclear facilities. At the end of the day yesterday, Donald Trump said he was looking forward to the negotiations with Iran continuing on Sunday. He was very specific about that. Nobody thought anything was going to happen because the Americans were going to sit down with the Iranians in Qatar and they were going to talk this out and avoid a conflict. Apparently, in fact, it's pretty certain that was all an act. That was designed to lull the Iranians into a little bit of, shall we say, putting their guard down, getting ready for negotiations. Both sides had communicated with each other and pointed out different things. But the Iranians didn't know that the Americans weren't being serious. The Israelis and the Americans apparently planned this out. It was designed to be a bit of a fake, kind of what you do in American football. You pretend to pass on to somebody, and then what you're really doing is planning to throw the ball down the field. Well, Iran was caught a little bit off guard in what can best be described as a Pearl Harbor-like attack, except, well, it's actually worse. Pearl Harbor was not supposed to be a sneak attack. The Japanese were supposed to be declaring war on the United States 1 hour before bombing Hawaii. They messed up, and it became a sneak attack. This was done with the intention of catching the Iranians off guard. Now, what this means for the United States is that no one is ever going to trust the U.S. again to negotiate in good faith or to stop hostilities, to take some time to talk. That is not good. This is something the U.S. has never done to the best of my knowledge. In fact, I would be pretty certain of it. It was rather underhanded, and no matter what you think about the Iranian government, they're not very nice people, and I do not wish them well, but when you want to, in the future, be credible for talking about something while planning a sneak attack with your ally, well, that's not too cool. And we will be paying for this many years from now. That being said, let's go into what's really going on here. There are a lot more things being hit in Iran than is generally being talked about in the mainstream media. Port facilities, for example. Down near the Straits of Hormuz, they've been hit by the Israelis. All sorts of targets, hundreds literally, have been hit throughout Iran, far more than you're seeing on any of the maps on any of the major news outlets. But one thing is quite obvious, and that is the assassination of the key members of the government responsible not just for defense, but for internal security. Everyone was taken out in that department except for the supreme leader, Mr. Khomeini, who has reportedly fled the capital to another city and, well, who knows where he's going to go from there. He's certainly a target. It needs to be pointed out that these assassinations were not just indiscriminate. There are several reports I'm hearing that some of these guys were taken out in their own bathrooms. There was obviously a bomb planted in there a long time ago by somebody, or a rocket hit them from outside. But they were killed with very little, if any, collateral damage in what is probably one of the most elaborate cloak and dagger operations in military history. Iranians are backing this. There's no way you can have that level of penetration into a country without the cooperation of many of its citizens, which the Israelis obviously have. This is not about nuclear capability. This is about overthrowing the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. This is regime change. John F. Kennedy used to have a joke he told people. The American way of doing things was, if you don't like the government you're dealing with, change it. And that's what you're seeing right now. If you just wanted to take out the nuclear facilities, you'd hit those. But no, they're taking out the whole government. And as far as we can tell, it's gone pretty much further than what's initially being reported by the Iranians. I bet you far more people have been hit. Iranian scientists have been killed, ones involved in nuclear weapons development, but according to members of the Iranian diaspora who are really cheering this on, those were guys who were effectively part of the military and they were legitimate targets. Now, that's something no one's paying attention to. The mainstream isn't even touching on. All of the millions, literally millions, of Iranian diaspora, people who left the country, fled the country, and live overseas, are cheering this on. They are very happy about this. They're very supportive of it. In fact, Reza Pahlavi, he's the son of the Shah of Iran. He's the crown prince. He's the heir apparent to their monarchy. He's just come out in the last few hours urging the overthrow of the government. I'll bet you when the history books are written, he knew something about this as well. I've been in touch with several Iranian, or I should say Persian, they like that term more, sources who are telling me that they are expecting to see the collapse of the government and possibly replaced by a military coup. But this is what it's about, people. It's not just nuclear weapons. This is about getting rid of the Islamic Republic of Iran once and for all. It's not also being reported, but it appears that Saudi Arabia and Jordan are also, well, they're kind of helping out a little bit on the side. You see, everybody in the Middle East, however religious they are sick of the Iranian fundamentalist crazies that have done nothing but cause mayhem and murder throughout that part of the world. Nobody really cares about the Palestinians in that part of the world. They really don't. The Iranians never did. If they did, they would have helped them in better ways than they did. Iran's government is not popular with its people. Do you think you could have this much operation behind the lines in that country if you didn't have a substantial Iranian underground? No. Iran just used Israel as an excuse. And the way the Palestinians were treated, which wasn't nice, to be perfectly honest and perfectly fair, but they used that as a way of propping up their own government. And this has been known by those of us who followed this for some years. The best way to unite a country is hating somebody, having an enemy, and that's what they wanted. Now, Iran's military, was it badly hit? I think it might have been hit worse than we're being told. They have a lot of missiles, but based on the video I've seen, it looks like some ammunition dumps have been hit, some facilities used to operate. But also, the Iranians had a lot of pride going for them, which never, ever, ever goes well. I wouldn't call myself an expert at military stuff, but do you remember a few months ago the Iranians had a video they put out showing this massive underground military base that they so cleverly built deep underground? You remember that? Well, that's kind of a stupid thing to do because whenever you do a video of your facilities, your enemies, which in this case is Israel and the United States, are going to scrutinize it and look for weaknesses. And I even found one. You know what I noticed? No blast doors. You had this massive cavern that seemed to go on for miles, but there weren't any blast doors, which means that if one part was hit, it's going to affect the whole thing. You don't even build a ship that way. You ever wonder why they have hatches on ships or submarines or American underground bases? It's because if one part gets hit, the rest of it will still function. So I'll bet you that whatever that facility was, or the fact that maybe all of their facilities didn't have a blast door set up, well, that could explain why they haven't shot a lot of missiles off yet. Now, one should never underestimate a country's retaliatory ability when something like this happens. The Persians are among the oldest racial groups on the planet and one of the most intelligent. They were fooled by the Americans into a sense of complacency for a few critical days, and they're paying for it. But when you start a war, you really don't know where it's going to go. And this could involve China, and it could involve Russia. But I will tell you this, if there is a regime change in Iran and the Islamic fundamentalist leaders of that country are removed from power and something a lot more sane comes to power, I'll bet you China and Russia are going to go right on saying, okay, easier people to do business with. Nobody likes to deal with fanatics. They're unreliable, they're unstable, and they're bad for business. This can go either way, but the Americans are expected to get involved to some extent. In fact, there have been reports that American fighter jets have gone to Israel in an effort to shore up their situation. Much of this information is not necessarily that verifiable, but it's coming from good sources. Again, what you're seeing is an attempt to overthrow the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And as I speak, which is late Friday morning, the Israelis are still hitting Iran continuously. So this is going to be an interesting weekend. Stay tuned to this channel for more updates as they come along. Follow the words of the Iranian leader in exile, Mr. Reza Pahlavi. He lives in Maryland, by the way, not too far from Washington, D.C., so there's more going on than we know. That's it for now. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies, no matter what side they're on. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and stay tuned. Good day.